BookTube, it's Angie. I'm working through a few different novels right now, but I've burned through a lot of shorter reads, so I thought I'd do a little video about some of the quick reads I've gotten through in the last, I don't know, week or two. I have another video coming up about a few arcs I've finished, but I'm still working on the notes for those. So this is just a little video of little quick reads if you need like breather books to go in between bigger ones. These are kind of some cute ones I found. And then there's one that I was kind of like about. So the first one I did is R.L. Stine's The Haunting Hour, Stories that Inspired the Hit TV Show. I think there's actually a few in this series. This is just one of them, I think. I was flipping around the other day and actually was watching this show on Hub Network the other day and was kind of inspired to pick this one up because it's really brief. It was a nice little reminder of my childhood because I read the Goosebumps series when I was a kid. I watched a few of the episodes of The Haunting Hour and it was cute because it reminded me of, like, it's not super scary stuff. It's kind of like that campfire ghost story, like, ooh, kind of scary, where it's cute scary. When I picked up the book, the stories were pretty much the same way. I mean, there are a few parts in here where I was like, wow, that's alright. I don't know if, like, if you get under, like, maybe 4th grade, I think you might be pushing the appropriate level for readers, because some of it gets just borderline dark for, like, really young readers. But most of it is fine. I liked that, let me see if I can show you here. Right before all of the stories in the books, let's see if I can get this. This little, I'm always backwards on this. Okay, this little paragraph here, there's one of these at the beginning of every story where R.L. Stine writes where the inspiration for that particular story came from, and I thought that was a really cool touch, because that's just interesting to me to know where writers, especially horror writers, come up with their ideas. And I think my favorite one was the first story in here, Halloween Party. R.L. Stine tells a story about the inspiration for that was when he was a kid and Halloween came around. He desperately wanted to be a vampire when he was little as his costume, and for some reason his parents came home with a duck costume, and so to try to cover himself and regain his cred with his friends, he tried to pull it off as, I'm a vampire duck. Which, yeah, they didn't really buy, obviously, but I thought that was really cute. Because I could see myself doing that. It's like, no, I'm a street duck. You don't know. So yeah, I had a lot of fun with this. But I actually found the illustrations more disturbing than the actual stories in here. Because, like, you know, for a really little kid, How to Bargain with the Dragon, or the other one that I found was pretty damn creepy, was this Are We There Yet one. That's, if I was like really little, saw that coming at me, yeah. But, you know, for grade schoolers, it's gonna be fun. So yeah, if you have a kid that's a fan of the show, I'd say go ahead and check this out. It was a good time. Then I picked up this graphic novel called Dear Creature by Jonathan Case. And I forget where I heard about this, but it just sounded interesting to me because it was about this sea creature who, his normal behavior is to attack teenagers, hormonal teenagers that are trying to get busy at the beach. And he eats them, but he starts collecting these bits and pieces of Shakespeare stories that someone keeps putting in bottles and throwing out in the ocean, and he's slowly gathered these little bits of Shakespeare plays that have cultured him in some way, and he's gained this vocabulary from Shakespeare, and he's gained this sensitivity, so now he doesn't want to go after these kids anymore. It kind of reminds me of, I think it was in the movie, what was that movie, Shark Tale or Fish Tale or something, that had the vegetarian shark. It kind of reminded me of that. Like, he has these little crabs that follow him around in this book, and they always want to keep going after more hormonal teenagers, and he just wants to sit around and read Shakespeare. And then he finds the woman that's been throwing the pages of Shakespeare in the ocean, and of course he's convinced that he's madly in love with her and they're meant to be together, but she looks at him as like, but you're a bizarre creature. But I don't know, for some reason she was like, I guess it's not gonna get better than this. So she ends up kind of falling for him. And I thought it was interesting that for this book, instead of having, like, you know, the buxom woman on the front, they actually wrote in a kind of, I don't know, like middle-aged older lady character for him to fall in love with, which I thought was kind of cool. That, you know, older ladies, I should say, I'm gonna get offensive, older ladies need their love too. But yeah, it's kind of in a traditional black and white style, but the illustrations are actually pretty cool. And there was a little joke in here that I thought was kind of cute. There was one panel, it said, "We're police, we need to understand a criminal mind like a fish needs a bicycle." And there's Gru, he's the alien, a sea monster guy. He's on there in a old-time deep diving suit on a bicycle. So that was kind of cute. And let's see if we got one of my favorite panels here was the one of one of the teenage, I'm sad to say, is one of the teenage victims in the story, but she looks really pretty. So yeah, I mean, you see so many color novels, graphic novels now. It was kind of cool to see a really well done black and white one. I thought the final panel was really sweet. Yeah, that was a good time. I thought that was gonna be a nice little addition into my graphic novel shelf, which I'm trying to build up with some really fun ones. This was the one I read, this actual novel, that I was really excited to get into, and then I didn't really love so much. It's called Nights in the Asylum by Carol Lefevre, I think. That case of the synopsis on the back sounding awesome, and then the book being god-awful slow. The story opens up with this woman and her husband attending the funeral of their daughter. And the main character, Miri, I think her name was, she's so distraught over losing her daughter, she ends up having to be placed in the psych ward level of the local hospital. And after a while, she doesn't remember how she got there, but she's an actress, so she's able to act her way into convincing the doctor to release her. And so she gets released, and she goes to this place called Havana Gardens, which is the estate of her Cuban grandmother, even though the story takes place in the Australian outback, but her mother is Cuban. Or no, sorry, her grandmother is Cuban. I think it's her grandmother. Might be her great-grandmother. I don't remember. But she goes to this house. She basically just leaves her life, decides she can't really live with her husband anymore. She goes and retreats to this house. On the way to going to the house, she meets Aziz, who is a refugee who is trying to escape. He's fleeing from the Taliban, who basically murdered his entire family, and he doesn't want to get caught by them, so he flees across the country and ends up in, well, I guess I should say flees across the world, because he ends up in Australia. And then on top of that, there is also Suzette, who is basically squatting in the mansion that Miri's going to, her family mansion. She's hiding in the house with her daughter because they don't want her abusive husband to find her. And so there's all this potential for a decent story, but it was just really boring to me. There's a lot of talking, and nothing super interesting for me happened until almost the very end, and then it almost kind of picked up, but by then it's like it's too late. But I mean, just with all the elements they had with a woman losing her daughter, a guy fleeing from the Taliban, there's supposed to be this crazy husband, abusive husband who's they act like he's hunting down his wife, but really in the story it seems like he's just more interested in banging the waitress at the local diner, and he kind of goes looking for his wife near the end of the story, like, oh yeah, I haven't seen my wife in a while, I should go hunt her down and kick her ass. It's just sort of, I don't know, it's just, the rhythm of this book was so slow and uninteresting for me that was not good for me. It's definitely character driven, but even character driven novels need something to continue to drive them for you to want to read them. So yeah, this was a no for me. And then I picked up this cute little social media comedy book called The History of the World According to Facebook, which basically teaches you essentially it's in the title, right? The history of the world according to Facebook. It's all the great moments in history put into Facebook posts. But really, if we're being accurate, this should more likely say the history of the Western world according to Facebook, because a lot of Eastern history is left out of here. There is little speckles of Eastern history briefly, but the majority of it is Western history. But that's okay, because it's still funny the way it is, because, I mean, it's not an actual history book, it's a joke book. So, but if you're up on your history, you should find a lot of really good humor in here. So I figured I would just go over some of my favorites. Peter the Apostle posts on John the Apostle's wall and says, "John, come meet us out back at the fire pit. Paul is tanked and singing Your Body is a Wonderland to the bridesmaids." But yeah, it's not all accurate history. It's a little bit of creative license. There was one that says, "The Pope has created an event." It says the Crusades. Richard the Lionheart replied, "How am I listed as attending? I never responded to this." Pope replies, "Made you an admin, you gotta come." Richard the Lionheart changes Crusades to pointless religious conflict. Pope responds, "You ass." Pope changes pointless religious conflict back to the Crusades. Richard the Lionheart says, "You know what kind of hat yours looks like?" Richard the Lionheart is in Jerusalem with English Crusaders and replies, "Oh look, it's a barren desert. Shocker." And the Pope replies, "That's it, you're not coming to the after party." One is Henry VIII says, "Yay, great, another daughter. Hashtag sarcasm." Vladimir Nabokov added sex with underage girls to his interests and replied, "That looks bad, but I swear it's for research." And Saddam Hussein posted, "Chillin' in my spider hole." U.S. Marines say, "Oh, wow, thanks." Saddam Hussein replies, "Ah, shit." It's just good, jokey fun. But the other one that kind of goes along with that I liked even more, was Ophelia joined the group Maidens Who Don't Float Classic Lit Signs on Facebook by Sarah Schmelling. I think my favorite parts of in here were there's a quip war between Oscar Wilde, Mark Twain, Shakespeare. In the middle of this quip war, Hemingway, Dickens, and Dorothy Parker pop in their 2 cents, and it was really cute. Book nerd humor. There's also these, trying to find one here. Okay, so there's these pages in here. There we go. Okay, So it's kind of hard to tell, but it's basically these interlude pages of people from classic lit playing games of Scrabble, and it's just Scrabble smack talk. That's all it is they put words up, and it's basically just lit people going, what, seriously? You're gonna go that route? So it's just good times. This is basically, the idea is William Shakespeare starts a book group on Facebook, and all these famous people from classic lit join the group and start posting all this bizarre stuff on the group's board or their wall. And Shakespeare has to moderate it. And there was a part in Shakespeare's rules that I thought applied well to my own channel here, which says, the following will not be tolerated here: slurs, libels, slander, dullness, status updates that include the phrase "your name here hates Mondays" or "thank God it's Friday," emoticons used in an effort to mask one's lack of vocabulary, use of exclamation points that give us the impression you've OD'd on cocaine and pixie sticks, and abuse of texting acronyms. Unless you are a 6-month-old infant or a little girl in a tickle fight, you are not really rolling on the floor laughing. If you are, you need to get up, go outside, and speak to another human being because there is something wrong with your sense of humor. The following will be tolerated, in fact expected: obscenity, bawdiness, drollness, sly wit, bad puns, jokes about one's manhood, random song lyrics, histrionics, inside jokes, sudden mood swings, and reference to things like pirates, cows, jousting, 80s keyboard-centric pop bands, monkeys, any of the later Beatles albums, Colin Firth, Kenny Rogers, House Pets. I believe you get the idea. It's just like, yes, thank you. So this goes over a lot of your basic classics: Hamlet, The Odyssey, Moby Dick. There's just the major ones are pretty much all in here. The format is very similar to the history according to Facebook. That one is in color. This one's more black and white. Like the Facebook beta, maybe. I liked that on Hamlet's page it said, Hamlet posted an event, a play that's totally fictional and in no way about my family. King commented on Hamlet's play, what is wrong with you? Polonius thinks this curtain looks like a good thing to hide behind. Polonius is no longer online. If you're familiar with the Canterbury Tales and the Wife of Bath tale, there's one in here about the Wife of Bath. The Wife of Bath's Tale newsfeed. A lusty knight is roaming the countryside looking for maidenheads. Oh, found one. King Arthur thinks the knight should be hanged. The queen thinks that's kind of harsh. The king says, fine, you decide what you want to do with him. Queen challenges knight to answer one question and your life will be saved. Test. Test duration 1 year. Knight accepts challenge with the reason, I had no choice. Queen says, great. Question is, what do women want most? Knight replies, oh God. This was one of my favorite ones in here for Jane Austen fans. It says, Jane Austen created the group. That's nice you made a whole movie about it, but I hardly knew Tom Lefroy. There's one in here for The Adventures of Huck Finn. It says, Huck added, learning people can really suck sometimes to his educational info. There's a Moby Dick joke. It says, Ishmael is now friends with first mate Starbuck. Starbuck likes his sea venti with extra foam. Note from admin, there had to be a Starbucks joke and this is the one that was picked. We apologize if this causes cringing. Starbuck also happened to be from Nantucket, so there was that humor possibility for a while, but then it turns out these jokes are hard to combine. There was once a man named Starbuck from Nantucket who had a straw so he could see it doesn't work. There's one under Macbeth newsfeed that said, Macbeth added moral quandary application. Lady Macbeth replied, how about you add up the man up already application? Macbeth hopes they never have any daughters. Macbeth is killing Duncan and the ability to ever sleep again. This was during the pun quip thing I was talking about with Shakespeare and Oscar Wilde and all of them. near the end of it, it says, Oscar Wilde thinks one can live down everything except a good reputation. William Shakespeare replies, exit pursued by a bear. Sorry, just had to. It's not a quip, it's just a stage direction. Winter's tale. That's all, I swear, just exit pursued by a bear. It's just funny. Because it's right there in the stage directions. A bear. And then Shakespeare just leaves the conversation. There's a profile page for William Faulkner that says, member of some of my ancestors were killed in duels, noble laureates who didn't go to college, Oxford men, yes, I wrote it that way to mess with you, chronological order is for sissies, save water, drink whiskey, and important southern writers. I definitely say if you're a classic lit fan, at least check this out once just for a good laugh. There's a lot of good stuff in here. I loved it. So this will probably be one I'd pull out every time I need just a quick laugh, and you know, if I feel like kind of down and I don't know, in a book slump or something. There's just some good classic lit jokes in here. So that's the pile of quick reads I did. So yeah, this is kind of long because there's a lot of gaps in here, but I'm going to edit it down so you guys don't have to go through all that. And you should see me in the not too distant future with the ARC video I keep talking about. But okay, that's it guys. I'll see you soon. Bye.
Drink up, less boo-boo. Boo-boo, what is that? You remember less boo-boo? You know, from Mr. Shepherd's classroom, it said on the wall, exit pursued by a bear, you know, from that Shakespeare play?
A Winter's Tale.
Yeah, what was it called?
A Winter's Tale.
That's it. And if we needed to make a quick getaway, we'd say, exit pursued by a bear. And then it was, exit pursued by Yogi Bear. And then it was just, let's Yogi and boo-boo. And then, let's boo-boo.
So you're saying we should go?
Yeah, it's shit here, isn't it?